The Endermen. Whenever you stare at them, even by accident, you will get ruthlessly attacked by them. Or, when you're trying to beat the Ender Dragon, the Endermen just get in the way and end up swarming you and killing you. While this is extremely annoying, why do they get mad at us, the players, when we stare at them? Are they shy and they hate eye contact or something? It turns out they get mad for a much darker reason. Also, before we begin, please consider subscribing. Thank you. Anyways, the Endermen only get mad at the player when they stare at them. They don't seem to mind being looked at by other animals. They only get mad at the player when stared at. As you know, the Enderman is the only mob that can place and pick up blocks, besides the player of course. A lot of people take this information and assume that the Endermen were once an advanced civilization, and they could have been. Out of all mobs, the Enderman seems to be the most intelligent out of them all, besides the player. So, many people assume that since the Enderman can place and break blocks, they used to be an advanced civilization. But what if that's not true? Maybe they never knew how to craft or create societies with complex structures. Maybe they have always just wandered the end. I'm going to propose a new theory by looking in a new perspective. My new theory also accurately explains why Endermen get mad when the player stares at them. What if the Minecraft Endermen were once slaves? During the time when the ancient builders were constructing their first buildings, temples, etc., the Endermen in the end, well, were just the only inhabitants. There were no end cities yet. I'm not sure about the massive end island in the middle of the map though. Maybe it wasn't there at the time. For hundreds of years, nothing really changed in the end. Meanwhile, the ancient builders were one of the most, if not the most, advanced civilization ever. They knew how to construct many things, even stuff our modern day player can't craft. In this case, the end portal. So in their strongholds, they constructed the most powerful thing they have ever made, the end portal. When these ancient builders entered the dimension, before the Ender Dragon came, they found a dimension with little life. The end stone was pretty useless besides making some endstone bricks, and the chorus fruit wasn't the best food source. They just made you teleport around a bit. Nonetheless, they built some cities in the end. The loot in the end cities indicate that they wore enchanted diamond and iron armor, had diamond and iron tools, and were very rich and had horses. And judging by the beetroot seeds we can find in end city loot, they did a little farming too. The only thing I'm not too sure about are the ender pearls and the shulker. Here is my theory, but it is up for interpretation. Real life pearls are created by mollusks, such as oysters. The shulker looks like an oyster, so maybe they are the ones that produced the ender pearl. They might have created ender pearls in the overworld that were brought over into the end. Maybe they were slightly different and looked more like an oyster, then later evolved into the present day shulker in the end. But again, this part is still up for interpretation. Anyways, in the ancient builders colony in the end, they realized the useful abilities of the Endermen. They could pick up blocks, place them elsewhere, and they decided to make the Endermen do their bidding. The reason this could be plausible is that the ancient players probably enslaved many other species before. They might have done it to the villagers and piglins, so it is not too unreasonable to assume that the ancient builders enslaved the Endermen. No creatures could outplay the ancient builders. The ancient builders made the Endermen harvest ender pearls from the shulkers, since shulkers are the ones that probably created the ender pearl. Maybe harvesting ender pearls from shulkers takes a lot of work and time, so Endermen were forced to do the tedious labor. The ancient civilization had made a decent presence in the end dimension, and almost every Enderman had harvested at least one ender pearl. Some Endermen were taken to other dimensions as well to do work. This is where they were most useful. Notice how out of all of the blocks the Endermen can pick up, all of them are either in the overworld or nether. They can't pick up anything in the end. This is why I don't think the Endermen built the end cities. If the Endermen were the ones who built the End City, surely they would have needed to be able to pick up end bricks and purple blocks, right? But they can't. This is why I think the ancient builders were the ones that built the End Cities. Anyways, the Endermen were forced to move and carry blocks around, and do tedious labor for free. They would move around dirt and sand, carry pumpkins and melons to people. I can imagine they grew sick of the ancient builders' rule. They would be yelled at to keep working, and the people would yell and mock right at their face, which would make the Endermen really mad. All of their attempts at revolution failed. They weren't strong enough. The ancient builders kept them subjugated. Hashtag Enderman freedom. This will be covered some other time, but after a long time, the ancient builders' civilization began a sharp decline, and everything was in chaos. All sense of order was gone, and it was soon becoming every man for himself. The Endermen, finally, after centuries of oppression, were able to rise up and stood a chance this time. They violently took back the End Dimension. Most buildings in the End were destroyed. The End City survived though. The ancient builders finally surrendered after much bloodshed, and in the treaty, both end portals in the End and Overworld dimensions would be deactivated. In the End portal in the Overworld, the Eyes of Ender had to be taken out, but some players forgot, and there are some rare ones that are still fully activated. A few Eyes of Ender were left in though. The portal in the End dimension was deactivated and protected by a magical dragon so that the Endermen in the End couldn't go back into the Overworld. All Endermen were set free. The Endermen in the Overworld and Nether were from the time when they were slaves. They were taken out of the End dimension and brought into the Overworld and Nether, but now they're free. So here we are in the present day. The ancient builders' civilization is long gone, and we are their predecessors. And the Endermen, well, are enjoying the peace and quiet, doing basically nothing in the End. All that remains are the End Cities. So to answer the age-old Minecraft question of why Endermen hate being looked at, if you haven't figured it out already, when you stare at the Endermen, you remind them of when they were enslaved. They were enslaved in every dimension in different ways. And you, the player, may even remind the Endermen of when the ancient builders yelled and spat at them when staring right at their faces. When you wear a pumpkin, they obviously can't see your face, kind of stating the obvious. Comment down below what you think of this theory. Do you think there's anything that needs to be added or changed? Let me know. This theory hasn't been fully fleshed out yet, so if you could help me, that would be great. But anyways, this was the story of the Minecraft Endermen.